So hello guys and welcome to episode 4 of our Reviving Manor Racing save. Now if you didn't go back and watch the last episode, definitely go back and do that. We were in Baku, it was another wet race. We're hoping for some dry weather here in Imola this weekend. But if we have a look at the standings, Charles Leclerc actually took the lead of the Drivers' Championship from Max Verstappen by a single point. Lewis Hamilton holding on to their coattails in P3. Checo Perez struggling to keep pace with Max Verstappen as he is in real life. We did choose a rival before the last race as well, and that rival was Yuki Tsunoda, and we did actually beat him in the last race, so that gave us the option to have a secondary sponsor, and we thought, well, why not go for one that stipulates you've got to be your rival, and we seem to be doing that at this moment, so we've gone for Highland as our secondary sponsor to build some more acclaim and some more revenue into the team. We are, of course, making progress in the research and development areas, and if we have a look at the progress history, we are now still in third position, third last, but we are very much in this little gaggle of cars with Haas, Williams, Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri, so we've got the chance to battle for the final points paying positions, I would suggest, as we go into this weekend at Imola. So there's nothing else really to tell you about. I'm going to get into qualifying and I'll see you in Imola for the Italian Grand Prix. So qualifying is over, Max Verstappen is on pole and we were dead last before our final run, but we managed to put it in P15 just in front of Yuki Tsunoda by 0.05 of a second. Ollie Caldwell a little bit further back. He was actually in front of us after the first run, but didn't really manage to improve on his second run. Nick De Vries in the AlphaTauri, maybe he will get replaced by Danny Ricciardo on this as well because he's having a very poor season. But let's get to 5 red lights for the Imola Grand Prix.
Well, today's venue has a full name that is perhaps lesser known than its informal one. So today we're at Imola, or to give it its official title, the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, named after their legacy. A beautiful tribute at a beautiful circuit. It's time, everyone, for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. 3.1 miles of track at Imola featuring 19 turns, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. Remember that Imola differs from most other Formula 1 tracks as it's taken anti-clockwise. Let's hope nobody forgets that today. The exit from turn 18 will probably be the setup for many of today's overtakes, leading as it does into the longest straight on the circuit and its only DRS zone. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Ocon, Stroll, Gasly, Verstappen, Joe, Albon, Lewis, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Oscar Piastri, Sargent, Ollie Caldwell, De Vries, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So then guys, we do gain one position up into P14. Strategy-wise, it was telling us to go on the alternate strategy, but we have got the tyre wear upgrades a little bit on the car now. So we are going to go for the soft onto the mediums, try and get the undercut, and then gain a few positions from there. That's the plan. And hopefully, I can see rain clouds, but I'm hoping it's going to stay dry. We don't want any rain today. Hopefully, a completely dry race. And if we can stay out of any incidents, I'd be very, very happy with that. So here we go then. Imola Grand Prix. Let's go for it. So we are then George Russell on pole, Perez in P2, Sainz P3. Can Sergio Perez get a cracking start as the 5 red lights go out? Russell gets a decent start, points his car across to cover Sergio Perez, but we're going to ride on board with us as we get a decent start, but we can see in front of us Joe and Albon battling, and then Tsunoda coming around the right hand side. We lost a lot of time on that second phase and we've had to dive down the inside to avoid contact. We do remain in P14 after all that, and now we are away after that first couple of corners. We've got Guan Yu Zhou in front of us and Yuki Tsunoda, our rival, behind. We're just keeping an eye on things at this moment in time. Meanwhile, at the front of the grid, Russell did manage to keep his lead from Carlos Sainz, who's managed to jump Sergio Perez into P2. Perez P3, Hamilton in P4, then comes Leclerc, Alonso, Norris in P7, Ocon P8, Verstappen all the way down in P9 after that penalty that he took So he's got a lot of work to do today, Max Verstappen. Stroll P10, Albon P11. We are battling away in P14 as we ride on board with us early doors. Yuki Tsunoda looking at the back of us, not managing to make a move as we go through the chicane there. We run a little bit wider on the exit, track limits there possibly, but Yuki Tsunoda now right up the back of us as we have a look at our teammate Ollie Caldwell. He's all the way back in P19 fighting with Logan Sargent and Oscar Piastri. And as we come on to lap 3, we can see Sergio Perez making a move on Carlos Sainz. DRS is not enabled just yet, but Sergio Perez not needing it anyway as he goes into turns 1 and 2. It's a right ding-dong battle between Sainz and Perez. Sainz manages to cover him off, and Carlos Sainz is allowing a big gap to George Russell now, who's benefiting from this squabbling on the Red Bull and the Ferrari behind. Hamilton's also involved, Leclerc on the back of these as well, but Carlos Sainz manages to hold on at the minute. 1.7 seconds gap to Russell. Meanwhile, further back, Max Verstappen looking at the back of Esteban Ocon's, not being able to make any progress in the first couple of laps, so he'll be keen to get past Esteban Ocon as quick as he possibly can. Going further back, we're still on the back of Guan Yu Zhou, getting comfortable now on these soft compound tyres. Tsunoda, though, has dropped back 2.3 seconds, the gap from Tsunoda to us. Ollie Caldwell still on the back of Oscar Piastri. Lap 9, and we are looking at Lando Norris, who appears to be going slow. As we watch him here, it looks like his engine's gone. He's pulled over to the side. Verstappen takes that position, and you can see puff of smoke there from the McLaren engine. He will not be happy with that at all, as he's just now trying to find a place to park up. We've got yellow flags in that sector, and Lando Norris retires from the Imola Grand Prix, our first retirement of the day. And while all this is happening, we've slowed down for the yellow flags for some reason, and now we've lost a lot of time for Guan Yu Zhou. We're considering our pit stop strategy now. We are suffering on these soft compound tyres. 2.5 seconds the gap to Zhou Guan Yu, 1.8 gap to Tsunoda, who's still fighting with Nico Hulkenberg, who's just flown past him with the DRS. You can see we're a little bit further up the road, but remember, we're struggling to fight for points, but we've got to beat Yuki Tsunoda, who's our rival now in this first part of the season. So lap 10, pit stop window imminent. And on lap 10, there's been a little bit of battling in front, which has meant that we've caught up a little bit, but we are going to pit now for the medium compound of tyre. We were torn between the hards and the mediums. We've got a few cars coming in, as we can see behind us as well. We've got the AlphaTauri, the Haas, and Oscar Piastri, I believe that is, into the box. Now, we've had a couple of dodgy pit stops recently. Are we going to get any problems this time round? There doesn't seem to be any issues there. We've had some issues with the front left. It's a 2.5 second stop, and we are back out, and we're now caught up to Zhou Guan Yu. Whether he's had a poor stop there, but that's not bad news for us at all as we rejoin back behind Zhou Guan Yu. We've managed to close that gap a little bit, and we can now chase after Zhou Guan Yu. Piastri's out as well from that pit stop, as is Yuki Tsunoda, and we're in P18 just trying to latch onto the back of Zhou Guan Yu, who, to be fair, has had the measure of us all day and has already nearly pulled out a second as we try to get the heat into these medium compound tyres. Back at the front, we can see Checo Perez now on lap 11 leading from George Russell. He's managed to bridge that gap. Russell's in P2, Sainz P3, Alonso P4. We'll come back in a few laps as there's a lot of cars now making the pit stops. Sainz, Russell, Alonso and Verstappen all into the box on lap 11. Lap 12, and Yuki Tsunoda has really caught us up here. We're struggling. We can see in the left-hand mirror Yuki going for the move, gets it done into that chicane, and Yuki Tsunoda has overtaken us. That's a real disappointing bit of racing from us there. We left the door wide open. Yuki gladly accepted that, and we are not really doing much as we're trying to get these heat into these tyres, and we are down into P14, and we need to remember beat Yuki Tsunoda. So disappointing from us. At the front, Sergio Perez is still leading, but I believe yet to pit. And Piastri now is on the back of us as well, so we've got a lot of work to do in this next stint. Gasly's very quick as well. We've got a few cars round us who I would believe are a little bit quicker than us, and that's something we've got to be aware of. Lap 12, and coming on to lap 16, Piastri has bolted. We can't manage to keep up with him, but what we have done is managed to drag ourselves back into the DRS of Yuki Tsunoda as we see Pierre Gasly now getting past us in that Alpine. And it's been that sort of race for us at this moment in time. We haven't managed, as we have a moment coming out of the chicane, not feeling comfortable, but we now know what we've got to do. We can see the cars in front of us. We've managed to have a little bit of a calm down in the cockpit, and we're now looking at Gasly and Tsunoda thinking, if we could get P13 here, I think this would be positive for us. We've not had no more retirements. The only retirement still is Lando Norris. But if we have a look back at the front, just to switch back to the lead, Lewis Hamilton is now leading on lap 16 from Charles Leclerc. Russell's in P3, and we're looking at Sergio Perez, who's on the hard compounder tyre, as is Max Verstappen. So the two Red Bulls on hards, and then we've got the Mercedes and the Ferraris going for the mediums. Red Bull, do they know something the rest of us don't know? I must admit, as we're now battling this out for P13 in this little gaggle of cars, I think I should have gone for the hard compounder tyre. We do seem more comfortable on the harder compounds early on in this career mode, but we are starting to get us driven back a little bit now on these mediums, and I'm hopeful we can get Gasly in the next few laps, and then it's all eyes on Yuki Tsunoda. And coming on to lap 19, this is the best chance we've had for a long time of getting back at Pierre Gasly. We're going to look to the outside. Can we make a move? We brake a lot later than the Frenchman, and we managed to get the move done round the outside. It's a great move from us, getting past Pierre Gasly, and we can see Yuki Tsunoda in front, and meanwhile these cars in front are also battling away, and this is helping us get up to the back of Yuki Tsunoda. Great work from us. Back at the front we can see Checo Perez up into P3, Verstappen into P4. Carlos Sainz not got the pace. Whether he's got an issue, we're not too sure, but he has not got the pace of the two Red Bulls. It's Mercedes versus Red Bull for the win here at Imola, and Perez is looking mighty quick. It must be said, quicker than Max Verstappen at this moment in time. Let's just ride on board with him as he comes out of this final corner. Will he be able to make a move here on Lewis Hamilton? Both cars have got DRS, but we know how powerful the DRS is on that Red Bull, and Checo Perez has a little wobble there. Hamilton squeezes him, but it doesn't squeeze him enough. Checo Perez up into P2, and he will fancy a look at George Russell in the next couple of laps. And as we come on to lap 21, Checo Perez is making moves once again. He's got past one Mercedes, and he's now got past the other. Checo Perez is into the lead of the Imola Grand Prix. Fantastic work from him. Verstappen will be closing up quickly as well in P4, but he's just a bit too far back maybe to make anything happen. Sainz is a fair distance back, fighting with Alonso and his teammate Charles Leclerc. Meanwhile, we switch back to our point of view because we are looking at Yuki Tsunoda on to lap 21. We've not managed to get him so far, but we're determined. We're giving it absolutely everything we possibly can. Using the battery, we're a bit late there. We run wide, and that compromises our exit. Maybe getting a bit frustrated, a bit desperate to get that payout from our second sponsor on Yuki Tsunoda. But we're very much in the fight with 2 laps to go. We are desperate to get past Yuki Tsunoda. And coming on to the final lap of the Grand Prix, we can see Checo Perez. He's got 1 DRS straight to negotiate, and if he can hold off Lewis Hamilton here, which I believe he can, he's going to manage to win this Grand Prix, I would suggest, unless Hamilton can make anything happen in the next couple of sectors. Meanwhile, we switch to our point of view because we are going to get, just as Sergio Perez had to negotiate, one final chance with DRS to overtake Yuki Tsunoda. We are using all the battery to try and get past the young Japanese driver, and this is it. We're going to make it happen here as we come down the start-finish straight. DRS open, both cars have got DRS. We brake a little bit later, cover him off on that racing line, and we are now up into P13. We've got another chicane to negotiate. We haven't been the best at these all afternoon, but let's have a look from Yuki's point of view. He's following us closely. We go a little bit wider, but managed to keep him at bay. Everybody's tyres a little bit worn now, of course, and we are now coming round the final few sectors. Can we get P13 and hold off Yuki Tsunoda? It would be absolutely brilliant if we could. While this is going on, we're just going to switch back to Checo Perez, who is coming around the final couple of corners, and Checo Perez is going to win the Imola Grand Prix for Red Bull. Fantastic work from him. Russell P2, Hamilton P3, Verstappen will be disappointed in P4, but back to our POV. Here we go. We've got a couple more corners to negotiate. We've done the chicane. Yuki Tsunoda is behind us, and can he make a move? Will he make a desperate move into this final couple of corners? He has a look up at the inside. We look like we've got this covered off. We run wider and then get a decent exit, and now all the battery that we can possibly use as we cross the line, and we will finish in P13. Unlucky for some, not for us. Ollie Caldwell, bless him, all the way down in P20. 7 seconds gap to Logan Sargent. Let's get to the podiums and Checo Perez's crowning victory.
Team from Milton Keynes then, after a quality performance. Anthony Davidson. How do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy and to stay out of trouble.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sports that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
So there we have it then. Checo Perez, we mentioned before the race that he wasn't keeping pace with his teammate. He certainly has done today. He's won it, and 2 Mercedes on the podium as well. Max Verstappen not on the podium once again. What a result that is for Sergio Perez. Let's have a look at the full classified standings. Sergio Perez winning, as we saw on the podium. Russell and Hamilton P2 and 3. Max Verstappen did get P4, so just missed out on the podium by 2.5 seconds. In the Red Bull, Sainz P5, Fernando Alonso P6, Leclerc the championship leader, not the championship leader anymore in P7, Stroll P8, Ocon P9 and Albon made up the points paying positions. We obviously finished in P13, beating Yuki Tsunoda. That's important, beating him in that rivalry, and we managed to do it on the last lap in some style as well. Pierre Gasly will be disappointed, down in P15, Logan Sargent and then Ollie Caldwell all the way down in P20. Just one DNF, and that was Lando Norris. If we have a look at the standings, driver standings wise, Max Verstappen retakes the lead of the driver's standings from Charles Leclerc in P2. Sergio Perez jumps up to P3, now only 15 points. 10 points behind Max Verstappen and 5 points behind Charles Leclerc. We still stay in P12 and not scoring any more points. And on the constructor standings wise, Red Bull are leading the way on 150 points from Ferrari in P2 and Mercedes in P3. We still maintain P8. We are very much battling with the Hassers at this moment in time, and we're seeing a lot of these in the races as well. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Our 4th episode done and dusted. I hope to see you on the next one. Ta-ra.